tiny girl stood on her toes in front of a desk bigger than her bed at home, her feet dusty, her voice shaking. "Please, sir," she said, not crying yet but close, "I'm not here to beg. I need a job so I can buy medicine for my mom. Please don't let her die." The room went silent. The man behind the desk, Grant Miller, the billionaire who owned the tallest building in the city, froze with his pen in the air. His assistant stared. Security hesitated by the door. The girl clutched a black plastic bag to her chest like it was her whole life. Her name was Ellie. She was 6, and she had walked past guards, secretaries, and glass doors that only rich people touched, all the way to the top floor to ask for work, real work, like a grown-up. Now here she was, voice small, eyes red, and for one breathless second the world waited to see what the coldest man in the city would do. Would he laugh? Would he call security? Or would he shock everyone and do something no one saw coming? Don't scroll, this moment will melt or break your heart. Tap like if you're already rooting for Ellie and tell me, where are you watching from? It was a bright Monday morning. People rushed on the sidewalks like a river made of shoes, bags, and loud phone calls. Coffee smelled sweet. Fresh bread came from the bakery downstairs. Car horns beeped. The glass towers shone so hard the sky looked like it was wearing a mirror. Ellie didn't fit into that picture. Her hair was messy under a small scarf. Her t-shirt was clean but old. Her small legs were tired. She carried the black bag because it had the last coins from their house. Coins she refused to spend on food because every coin had to become medicine. She had never been inside a building this tall. She had never seen floors that almost touched the clouds. But that day she wasn't scared of height or people or guards. She was scared of one thing only. The nurse's voice from the clinic the night before, "Bring money by morning or your mother must leave. We aren't a charity." The words chased Ellie like a bad dog. So she did the only brave thing her heart could think of. She went to find the richest man she had ever heard of and asked for a job. At the revolving door a guard bent down. "Hey sweetheart, you lost?" Ellie shook her head. "No sir, I'm here to work." The guard blinked. People behind her laughed a little and moved around her like she was a small rock in their hurry. The guard tried to smile. "You can't just walk in." Ellie held up the black bag and pointed to her chest. "Please, my mom is sick, I'm strong, I can clean, I can carry small things, I can help." Something in her voice made the guard stop. He wasn't allowed to let kids in, but he also wasn't allowed to be mean. He looked at the desk lady. The desk lady looked at her computer. "Take her to reception," she said softly, like maybe she remembered being small once. Reception smelled like flowers and paper. The floor was white and shiny. Ellie tried not to leave footprints. The lady at the counter talked fast into a headset, typing so quickly Ellie thought sparks might fly from her fingers. "Name?" the lady asked, finally looking at the child. "Ellie Brooks," Ellie whispered. "Age, 6. The lady looked up, shocked. "Parent with you?" Ellie shook her head. "My mom fainted. She needs medicine. I'm here to work for it." The lady bit her lip and stood. "Sweetheart, you can't." Ellie leaned forward. "Please, if I leave now, my mom might not wake up again." The lady's eyes softened. She called upstairs. "Tara, there's a child here who says she needs to speak to Mr. Miller about a job." "Yes, a child." Silence, then a long breath. "Send security to bring her up. Just be gentle." The elevator felt like a spaceship. Ellie pressed her back to the glass and watched the city fall under her feet. The higher they went, the smaller the cars looked, like toy ants with shiny shells. The guard who stood beside her kept glancing down at the girl and then up at the numbers climbing. "Where's your dad?" he asked softly. "I don't have one," Ellie said. She wasn't angry when she said it. It sounded like a fact she told herself every day. The guard swallowed and looked away. When the doors opened, clean air and quiet music drifted out. This was the top floor. This was where big money breathed. Tara, Mr. Miller's executive assistant, waited by a glass wall. Her ponytail was neat. Her eyes were smart and kind at the same time. "Hi Ellie," she said, kneeling to be face to face. "I'm Tara. You're very brave to come here, but you can't." Ellie's hands tightened on the bag. "Please, miss, I don't want candy. I don't want to beg. I just want a job. I will do anything." Tara looked through the glass into the corner office. Mr. Miller was on a call, staring at numbers that looked like secret codes. He wore a dark suit that fit him like he was born in it. He didn't smile. He almost never did. People called him the coldest rich man in the city. Some said he didn't have a heart. Some said he had lost it long ago when something terrible happened and he had thrown himself into work to build walls taller than skyscrapers. Tara sighed. "Wait here," she whispered. "Don't move, not even an inch." Then she walked into the office. "Grant, there's a little girl here," Tara said quietly after mooting the call. "Security brought her up because she asked for a job." Grant didn't look up. "Send her back down." Tara's voice stayed soft but firm. "She says her mom is sick. The clinic will send her mother away if she doesn't pay. She's 6. The pen stopped. Grant slowly lifted his eyes. He had blue-gray eyes that people said could cut through lies. He didn't like to be pulled away from work, from numbers that always did what they were told. But he also didn't like the idea of a child being used to push pity. He nodded once. 2 minutes. Ellie tried to stand very straight when Tara waved her in. She tried to keep her shoulders back the way her mom taught her when they practiced strong steps for scary places. The office felt like a cloud, soft carpet under her feet, soft light around the walls, soft chairs that hugged whoever sat in them. She didn't sit. She didn't know if she was allowed. Grant looked at her, and for 1 second he wasn't a billionaire. He was just a man who remembered a tiny pink hat in a hospital room and a laugh that never grew up. He pushed that memory down like a bad song stuck in his head and made his voice steady. "Your name?" "Ellie Brooks, sir." "How old are you, Ellie?" "I'm 6, sir." "You came alone?" "Yes, sir, my mom fainted. The nurse told me to bring money this morning. We don't have any, so I came to earn it." "How did you get past my security?" I asked nicely. Tara covered her mouth to hide a smile. Grant leaned back. "You understand this is an office, not a place where children come to." "Please, sir," Ellie said, stepping closer. "I can clean, I can bring water. I can carry light things, I can help the lady at the desk, I won't break anything, I won't be a problem." She lowered the black bag to the floor and opened it. Inside were 3 coins, a small bottle of water, a folded clinic paper with a red stamp, and a tiny blue hair ribbon that had lost most of its shine. She pulled out the paper and placed it on the desk with 2 hands like it was something holy. "This is the paper," she said softly. "They wrote that my mom needs tests. It costs more than our house rent. Please, sir, I don't need free money, just give me work." Grant took the paper. The clinic stamp was real. The doctor's name was real. The cost made his jaw tight. He studied Ellie's face. It was small but strong. Her eyes were big and tired and bright at the same time, like they could hold tears and fire together. He noticed her hands, how they shook but didn't run away. He noticed the blue ribbon, and for a split second something inside him cracked. His daughter had once worn a blue ribbon just like that. He had kept it in a drawer for years, then hid it deeper in the back of his mind because remembering hurt like stepping on glass. He closed his eyes, then opened them. He didn't believe in signs, he believed in facts, but he also believed in not being a monster. "Where is your mother now?" he asked. "At the Hope Street Clinic," Ellie said quickly. "Room 12, they said if we don't pay by noon, they will send her away." Grant checked the time. It was 10:03. Hope Street was 15 minutes away by car, 20 if traffic was mean. He stood. "Tara, call my driver, get the car to the front now." "Cole," he looked past Ellie toward the guard in the doorway. "You're coming with us." Ellie blinked. "Us?" Grant's voice lost its cold edge. "We're going to the clinic." They moved fast. Tara grabbed her tablet and a pen. Cole radioed the lobby. The elevator doors opened like a silver mouth. Ellie stood in the center, tiny and serious, clutching the blue ribbon now instead of the bag. The numbers fell: 64, 63, 62, down, down, down. Grant watched the child stare at the glowing digits as if willing them to move faster. In the mirror-like metal of the doors, he saw his suit, his face, his expensive watch, and behind them, a little girl who didn't care about any of those things. He saw fear trying to sit on her shoulders and her little hands pushing it off. Garage was cool and smelled like clean tires. The black car waited with the door open. The driver, Sam, nodded, wide-eyed at the sight of a child next to his boss. Tara helped Ellie climb in and click the seatbelt. "Thank you," Ellie whispered. Tara squeezed her hand. "You're very brave." The car pulled out, sliding into traffic like a big fish joining a fast stream. Horns beeped, buses sighed, people shouted. Ellie pressed her forehead to the window and whispered to the city, "Please let us go fast, please." Grant made 2 calls. The first was to the clinic. "This is Grant Miller. I need to speak to the administrator." The phone switched hands 3 times, then a firm voice answered. "This is Ms. Ramirez." Grant's tone turned to steel wrapped in velvet. "I have a patient there, Nora Brooks, room 12. She is not to be discharged or moved until I arrive. If there are forms, hold them. If there are bills, freeze them. I'm on my way." Ms. Ramirez, who had seen angry families and scared fathers in every kind of voice, straightened in her chair. "Understood, Mr. Miller. We will wait for you." The second call was short. "Tara, pull her file. I want to know who signed the discharge threat." Tara's fingers flew. "On it. Also, I'll contact our foundation partner at Hope Street. They have a social worker named Denise who can help once we get there." Grant nodded. He surprised himself by saying, "Thank you." Ellie listened without fully understanding. She only heard the important part: "We are going to the clinic. They will wait. Mom will not be sent out yet." She let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The car slowed at a light. A street musician played a soft tune on a violin, and for a second it felt like the city had a heart that could be kind. Traffic got mean near the bridge. A delivery truck blocked a lane. A taxi cut in. A motorcycle zipped like a mosquito. Sam did his best. Cole called out clear lanes. Tara kept Ellie talking so she wouldn't panic. "Tell me about your mom," Tara said. Ellie's mouth trembled, but she smiled a little. "My mom's name is Nora. She makes the best bean soup. She sings when she sweeps. She says the light in the morning is gentle like a friend you trust. When I'm sick, she puts a warm cloth on my head and tells me stories about a place where the trees clap their hands." Tara blinked back tears. "That sounds beautiful," Ellie nodded. "She says everything has a song if you listen." Grant stared out the window, jaw tight. He didn't like crying in front of people. He almost never cried alone. The blue ribbon burned in his mind. He tried to push it away again, but it came back. The hospital room years ago, the tiny hand he had held, the beep of the machine that had stopped beeping. He had buried his feelings under work, under glass and steel and deals. He had built towers so high he hoped the sky would press down on the ache and make it quiet. But a 6-year-old with dusty feet and a brave voice had just walked past his walls like they were made of paper. The clinic appeared at the end of the street, small and tired, with a sign that had lost some letters. People sat on benches outside, holding plastic bags with medicine or files squeezed in folders. The car stopped. Ellie unclicked her belt before anyone could help. She ran, small legs pumping, black bag thumping her side. Grant, Tara, and Cole followed fast. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and worry. A nurse at the desk looked up, ready to scold whoever was running, then froze when she saw Grant. "Mr. Miller," she said, standing so quickly her chair squeaked. "Room 12, he said. "Now," she pointed down the hall. Ellie reached the door first. She pushed it open and stopped. Her mother lay on a narrow bed, face pale, hair on the pillow like a dark cloud. An IV line was taped to her arm. A monitor showed green hills that rose and fell. "Slow, slow, too slow." "Mom," Ellie whispered. Nora's eyes opened a little. "Ellie," her voice was dry. "Baby, why are you here? You should be in school." Ellie climbed on the small chair and took her hand. "I got a job," she said, as if that were the same as "I love you. This is Mr. Miller. He's helping us." Nora tried to sit up, then winced. "Sir, Grant shook his head gently. "Don't speak, just breathe." He looked at the nurse. "Who ordered the discharge threat?" A doctor stepped in, straightening his coat. "I did," he said, not rude, just tired. "We're full. We can't keep people who can't pay." Grant kept his voice cool. "You will keep her now. I'll cover today and the tests. And whatever follows, but first you'll tell me what's wrong." Dr. Shaw rubbed his eyes. "We need labs to be sure. She's fainted twice. There's chest tightness, dizziness, and a fever that comes and goes. It could be an infection, it could be a heart issue, it could be something else. We can't guess." Grant nodded. "Run everything now." Dr. Shaw glanced at the nurse. "I'll get the order." He paused, looking at Ellie. "You got her help faster than most adults do," he said softly. Ellie blinked and held her mom's hand tighter. Tara stepped closer to Nora. "I'm Tara. We're going to take care of this. Do you have anyone we should call?" Nora shook her head. "Just Ellie." Her eyes drifted to the child. "Thank you for being brave, baby." Ellie put the blue ribbon on her mother's pillow like a tiny flag that said, "We're still here." Ms. Ramirez, the clinic administrator, arrived, breathing a little hard from walking fast in heels. "Mr. Miller, we appreciate your support," she said. Her voice tried to be calm, but relief made it warm. "Our social worker Denise is on her way to help with paperwork." Grant nodded. "Good, and Ms. Ramirez, don't threaten to send sick people away in front of their children." Ms. Ramirez bit her lip. "We have policies, but we also have hearts. I'm sorry." For a little while the room was quiet except for the machine's slow beeps and the rustle of forms. Tara handled the details. Cole stood by the door making space for nurses to come and go. Grant watched the numbers on the monitor and felt like he was watching a clock that counted feelings instead of time. Ellie moved closer to her mom's face. "I told you I would find work," she whispered. "I told you I would find the strongest person in the city." Nora smiled a small smile. "You did." When Denise arrived with paperwork, Tara stepped into the hall to talk with her. Grant stayed by the bed in a chair that looked too small for him. He wasn't good at hospitals. They made his chest feel tight, like the air was thick with old memories. He tried to distract himself by reading the chart at the foot of the bed. Ellie watched him, then tugged his sleeve. He looked down. She held up the clinic paper again, but this time she pointed at a spot he hadn't noticed before, the bottom corner where a doodle had been drawn in blue pen. A little star. He stared. His breath caught. Years ago he had signed every school permission slip and every note to his daughter with a small blue star in the corner because she said grown-up signatures were boring without pictures. "Stars mean promises," she had told him. "Put a promise on every paper, Daddy." He had kept doing it even after he stopped thinking the word after. He still signed some private things that way out of habit, then hid the papers because the sight of the star hurt. On the clinic paper, the star looked just like his, 5 uneven points, the bottom ones slightly longer. "Who drew that?" he asked, voice low. Ellie shrugged. "Me," she said. "I draw stars when I'm scared. My mom says a star is a tiny light that gets brave in the dark," she taught me. The floor under him felt like it tilted. He glanced at Nora. She was half asleep, listening but not. He looked at Ellie's face, the shape of her eyes, the way one eyebrow lifted a little when she was trying to be brave. The blue ribbon on the pillow shone like a soft bell. He pulled himself back to the moment, to what mattered right now: keep Nora breathing, keep Ellie safe. Dr. Shaw returned with test kits and a tech with soft hands. They drew blood, they checked Nora's heart, they asked questions. Nora tried to answer but grew weaker. The monitor's hills wobbled. "Her pressure is dropping," the nurse said. "Get fluids," Dr. Shaw ordered, calm turning sharper. The room changed. The air filled with quick steps and firm voices. Ellie froze, her small fingers trembled. Grant stood and put a hand on her shoulder. "I'm here," he said. He didn't promise things he couldn't control. He just used the only promise he could make and keep: "I won't leave." The IV bag went up. The drip began, the machine beeped faster then slower, unsure of what to do. Nora's eyes fluttered. Ellie, she whispered. If something, Ellie shook her head hard. No mom, no ifs, you promised you'd teach me how to make your soup on my next birthday. Nora tried to smile, tears touched the corners of her eyes. Yes, bean soup with a singing spoon. The monitor beeped steady for 3 beats then stuttered. Dr. Shaw leaned in. Stay with me, Nora, breathe. The nurse pressed a button and called for a cart. A second nurse appeared as if the wall had made her, unfolding equipment. Grant felt time slow like a movie that wanted to torture the audience. He hated feeling helpless more than he hated anything. He looked at Tara in the door, at Cole ready to move anything in the way, at Ellie holding on with both hands. He wanted to fix it with money, with orders, with force. He couldn't. He could only stand and witness and hope. The cart clicked. A mask came out of a drawer. The line on the screen dipped, climbed, dipped again. The room seemed to lean in with everyone in it. Ellie climbed onto the bed with careful knees and pressed her forehead to her mother's arm. Please be okay, she whispered. Please. And then, just as the nurse reached for the mask, the monitor let out a long, flat sound that didn't sound like hills or hope at all. The nurse's eyes snapped to Dr. Shaw. He moved fast, sharp, trained. Code, he called. The hallway answered with footsteps. A crash cart banged the door. Tara's hand flew to her mouth. Cole cleared the path with one push. Ellie's head jerked up, eyes wide, mouth open but no sound coming out. Grant grabbed her under the arms and lifted her gently off the bed so the team could work. She struggled for 1 second like a kitten who didn't want to leave a warm lap, then went still in his arms, staring at her mother. Charge to 200, someone said. Clear. Nora's body lifted a little, then fell. The line stayed mean and straight. Again, Dr. Shaw said, charge. Clear. The sound that followed was the loudest quiet Grant had ever heard. Ellie turned her face into his suit and finally cried, a small sound like glass breaking under a blanket. He held her with both hands, trying to give her every ounce of strength he had ever used to build anything. His eyes burned. The blue ribbon lay on the pillow next to Nora's hair like a tiny sky begging for a morning. Please, Ellie sobbed into his chest. Please don't let my mom die. Grant looked at Dr. Shaw, at the team, at the cruel straight line and felt something inside him snap, not the old break but a new one that made him move. Do not stop, he said, voice low and fierce in a way that made even the machines seem to listen. Do whatever it takes. Charging, the nurse said, hands steady. Clear, Dr. Shaw called. A flash, a jump, a beat. One single spike on the screen, then. The single spike on the screen held like a tiny flag on a windy hill, then fell away, then came back again, a little taller, a little braver. The flat line broke into shaky steps. The room, which had been one loud silence, began to breathe. We have rhythm, the nurse said, steady but soft. Again, keep watching. Dr. Shaw leaned in with calm hands and eyes that checked 100 things at once. Ellie didn't move from Grant's arms. Her tears slowed to little hiccups, each one a jump from fear to hope and back again. Grant held her close, feeling the tiny thumps of her heart against his suit. He didn't care about his suit. He cared about the person on the bed and the child that had walked through all his walls to ask for a job. The monitor's hills settled into a slow, uneven song. Okay, Dr. Shaw said, voice lowering as the room shifted from emergency to careful work. Okay, let's stabilize her. IV fluids stay. Oxygen, labs to the front, portable chest X-ray. The team moved like a dance that had been practiced for years. The crash cart rolled back. The mask stayed nearby but not on Nora's face. Ellie lifted her head a little and watched the green hills climb and fall. Is she back? She whispered. She's here, Dr. Shaw said, meeting her eyes. We have her, we're not done but we have her. Tara breathed out a shaky breath she didn't know she was holding and wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. Cole, who had cleared the path like a wall on legs, lowered his shoulders and nodded once, quietly proud of a job no one would ever write news about. Ms. Ramirez stood in the doorway with her hands pressed together like someone praying without words. Denise, the social worker, slipped into the room and stood by Ellie's side, a warm presence that did not talk yet, just stood close like a friend who knew the power of quiet company. Grant set Ellie gently on her feet and crouched to her height. She needs rest, he said. We'll stay, we won't leave. Ellie nodded hard, little hands cupped around the blue ribbon like it was a candle she needed to shield from the wind. Time changed shape. Minutes stretched and then sped depending on the sound of the monitor. The X-ray machine hummed. A tech slid the plate under Nora and clicked, quick and careful. Blood vials left the room and came back as numbers. Each number meant a piece of the puzzle. Tara stood by the door, turning medical words into plain speech for Grant and Ellie. White cells are high, she whispered. That means her body is fighting. Sodium low, potassium okay. They're checking for infection. Dr. Shaw returned with new orders. She has signs of infection and dehydration, he said. But there's something else I don't like on the scan. Her heart looks a bit large for her size. We need an echo. He looked at Ellie and made his voice gentle. That's a picture of the heart. It won't hurt, it just shows us how it pumps. Ellie nodded even though the words made her stomach feel like a small boat on choppy water. Grant stood and made 3 quick moves the way he did when a company was in trouble. First, he called his foundation director. "We need emergency coverage now, Hope Street Clinic, patient Nora Brooks," he said. "Open a file, authorize whatever Dr. Shaw orders." Second, he called accounting. "Clear a fund for immediate payment," he said. "No delays, no approvals needed beyond me." Third, he turned to Tara. "Find a private nurse if they need one tonight, and food, a real meal for Ellie." Something warm and simple. Tara's fingers flew. On it. Denise, hearing food, touched Ellie's shoulder. "Are you hungry?" Ellie shook her head, then her small stomach answered with a sound that said the truth. Denise smiled kindly. "I'll get soup." Ellie's chin lifted like a tiny flag. "Bean soup?" she asked, the smallest hope peeking out. Denise's smile grew. "If the cafeteria doesn't have it, the diner across the street does." She headed out with a soft promise in her steps. The Echo Tech, a woman with gentle eyes named Nina, rolled in a small machine with a screen that looked like a black window waiting for stars. She warmed the gel in her hands before putting it on Nora's chest. "This might feel cold," she said, even though the gel was warm, "but I'll be quick." Ellie watched the screen. Gray clouds moved, shapes pulsed. A white ring opened and closed like a slow blink. Nina frowned a little, the way people do when they are thinking, not when they are scared. "Doctor," she called softly. Dr. Shaw returned. He leaned over the machine and watched, then nodded once, slow and sure. "Okay," he said. He pressed his lips together and turned to Grant and Ellie. "Her heart is not pumping well," he said, simple and true. "It might be a problem with a valve, it might be from an infection. We need to move fast but not wild. I'm calling a cardiologist. She may need medicine for the heart right now and maybe a procedure later. We'll fight on both fronts, the infection and the heart." Ellie reached for her mom's hand again and squeezed. "You hear that, Mom? We are fighting." Nora's eyelids fluttered. She was not all the way back yet, but her fingers moved, just a small twitch that said, "I hear you, Sunbeam." Grant felt something break and mend inside him at the same time. He had built buildings that scraped the sky, and yet that tiny twitch from a tired hand felt bigger than all of them. Denise returned with a tray. Steam rose from a bowl of bean soup, simple and brown and smelling like home. There was a small roll of bread and a cup of water with a straw. "They didn't have your mom's recipe," Denise whispered, "but the cook across the street makes a good one." Ellie looked up in surprise. "You went across the street?" Denise's eyes twinkled. "For you, of course." Ellie took the spoon with both hands like it was a tool for a brave job. She blew on the soup and sipped, her shoulders lowered. Warmth moved through her face like a small sunrise. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you." Denise tucked a napkin under Ellie's chin. "Eat, your mom would want that." Ellie nodded and ate in small, careful bites, like each bite was a promise to stay strong. The cardiologist, Dr. Pierce, arrived wearing running shoes with her white coat like someone ready to move fast and far. She listened, read, watched the screen, and asked questions shaped like doors that opened to clear plans. "She needs IV antibiotics for the infection and medication to help her heart squeeze better," Dr. Pierce said. "We'll start that now. If she doesn't respond the way we want, we'll transfer her to the city center for a valve procedure. But let's try medicine first and watch her closely." She turned to Ellie and crouched low. "Your mom is very strong. Hearts can be stubborn, but we are more stubborn." Ellie tried a shaky smile. "I can be stubborn too." "Good," Dr. Pierce said. "We need that." Medicine dripped into the IV like quiet rain. The monitor's hills found a steady beat that was not perfect but was not bad. Nora slept. The room settled into a slow rhythm where every soft sound mattered. Tara sat in the corner and typed to make calls happen without noise. Cole stood in the hall like a tree you could lean on if you were tired. Denise showed Ellie where the bathroom was and brought a small blanket from the laundry. Grant stayed in the chair next to the bed, elbows on his knees, fingers laced. He told himself he was staying because it was the right thing. He did not say out loud that leaving felt impossible. Near noon, Ms. Ramirez returned with papers for signatures. She seemed nervous in front of a billionaire, but she spoke with the firm care of someone who had seen too many hard days. "There's a policy form and a consent for the medicine," she said, "and a release if we need to transfer." She laid out the lines to sign. Without thinking, Grant signed the way he had signed 1,000 forms, his full name, strong, fast. When he finished the last page, his hand paused. The nib of the pen hovered over the corner, half expecting to draw the small star he always used to add in private things. He stopped himself and set the pen down. He did not see Ellie pick up one of the signed pages from the edge and stare with wide eyes at the letters of his name. She traced them in the air with one finger, letter by letter, like she was making friends with them. Grant. After the forms were done, Denise asked the question no one had said yet. "Ellie," she said softly, "where are you sleeping tonight?" Ellie shrugged. "In the chair next to my mom if they let me." Denise looked at Ms. Ramirez, who made a face like a person caught between rules and heart. "We don't allow children to stay overnight in the ICU," Ms. Ramirez said, apologetic. "But we can let her stay late. We have a family room downstairs." Ellie's mouth flattened, trying not to tremble. She did not want to leave her mom. Grant stood before his mind could say wait. "She won't be in a family room," he said. "She'll be safe and close." He turned to Tara. "Prepare the guest suite in the building across the street, the one we keep for emergencies." Tara's eyebrows lifted. He almost never used that suite for anyone. Yes, she said, already texting. Denise looked relieved and then worried. Who will stay with her, she asked. We need an adult. Grant nodded toward Tara. Tara will stay. Tara nodded. Of course. Ellie looked from one face to another, trying to read if this was a trick. Will I be far from my mom, she asked. No, Grant said. We'll be right here across the street. You can see the clinic from the window. They moved when the afternoon sun hit a sleepy spot. Tara held Ellie's hand. Denise walked with them to the door. Cole stayed with Grant by Nora's bed until the child crossed the street. The guest suite wasn't big, but it was warm and clean, with a short couch that turned into a bed and a little table with 2 chairs. The window overlooked the clinic. From the 6th floor you could see the clinic's roof and the street where ambulances came and went. Ellie pressed her palms to the glass. That's us, she said softly, pointing to the building where her mom lay. That's where we are. Tara made cocoa on the small stove and found a clean t-shirt and soft pants from the emergency shelf labeled SML. They were a bit big, so she rolled the waist. Try these, Tara said. Ellie changed in the bathroom and came out looking small and brave in clothes that weren't hers but tried to be kind. Tara set the cocoa in front of her. Ellie wrapped both hands around the cup and sipped. Her eyelids drooped. I can't sleep, she said without being asked. If I sleep, what if? Tara sat across from her and took her hand. Sometimes rest is also brave, she said. Your mom is sleeping to get better. You can sleep to get stronger for her. I'll wake you if anything changes. Ellie studied Tara's face. Tara's eyes were honest, not the kind that made sweet sounds and broke promises after. Ellie nodded and climbed onto the couch bed. Tara tucked her in. Can you leave the light on? Ellie asked. Of course. Tara left the small lamp by the table lit, the one that made the room look like it was holding a tiny sun in a bowl. Back in the clinic, Dr. Shaw adjusted the medicine and checked the chart. She's holding, he told Grant. We're not out of the dark, but the dawn is thinking about it. Grant gave a small nod that meant thank you and also meant don't stop. He stood and walked to the window. The city moved outside, cars like beads on a string, people like dots in a fast painting. He looked down the hallway to the waiting room where a boy slept with his head on his mother's lap, and a man stared at a wall like he was trying to make it answer a question. He thought about money and the way it could be a door or a lock, a soft thing or a hard thing. He had used it like a wall for so long that he had forgotten it could be a bridge too. As evening leaned over the city, Nora stirred. Her eyes opened, slow and heavy like they were lifting weights. Ellie, she whispered. Grant stepped close. She's across the street with my assistant, he said. She's safe. Do you need water? Nora blinked, trying to gather thoughts that scattered like birds. Who are you? She asked, voice dry. Grant Miller, he said. We brought you to safety. You scared us. Nora tried to smile. I scare myself, she said. Her fingers moved on the blanket like they were drawing something. A star, an old habit, a promise. Thank you, she whispered, for my child. Grant pulled the chair closer. You have a strong daughter, he said. She walked through my whole building to ask for work. She didn't ask for charity. She asked for a job. I've never seen courage like that at 6 years old. Nora nodded, eyes filling. She always tries to fix things, she said, voice full of love and quiet pain. She thinks everything can be made right if you pick up the broken piece with both hands and try. The room softened. The machine hummed. For the first time all day, there was a small space for words that were not urgent. Do you have family? Grant asked. Nora's eyes drifted to the window, then back. No, she said, just us. She paused. There was someone once, long ago. Grant didn't know why his heart stepped wrong at that sentence. He didn't know why his breath stuck when Nora turned her face to the side, and the light from the monitor slid across the small, pale scar near her hairline, a shape he had seen on a different face, a long time ago, on a night when rain had made the roads look like glass. He stood and stepped away, his hands suddenly not sure what to do. Tara texted from the suite. She's asleep. Warm. Coco worked. I'll keep watch. Grant felt the text like a small hand on his back pushing him gently into the next thing. He replied, thank you, then he turned back to the bed. Rest, he said to Nora. We'll be here. Nora's eyes drifted closed. Night filled the clinic with quiet footsteps and the long, low voice of air vents. Dr. Pierce came again. She's responding, she said, tapping numbers that had moved in the right direction. Not fast, but better. We will hold steady tonight. She looked at Grant. Go home, sleep. You can't run on coffee and worry. Grant glanced at Nora at the door where the hallway felt bigger than it was, at his phone at the window where the dark made a mirror. No, he said softly. I'll stay. Dr. Pierce studied his face, then nodded like she had just connected a puzzle piece she had not expected to need. Sometime past midnight, Grant crossed to the window and stared out at his building. A light on the 6th floor glowed. He pictured Ellie asleep on the small couch, hands tucked under her cheek, blue ribbon on the table like a tiny watchman. He put his palm on the glass, and for a moment the cold touched him back. He whispered to no one, to the night itself, hold them. Next morning the city woke with buses and birds and the coffee smell again. Tara brought Ellie back across with small steps that tried to be brave and woke up fully when they saw the clinic. Ellie ran in like a quiet wind. Grant met them at the door of the room. "She's better," he said before Ellie could ask. Ellie's shoulders dropped and she let out a breath that looked like it had been trapped in her chest all night. She climbed onto the chair with careful feet and touched her mom's hand. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. "I slept, I ate, I'm strong." Nora opened her eyes and there it was, sunlight but in a person. "My little star," she said, "brave girl." Dr. Shaw came with a new plan. "If she keeps improving today," he said, "we'll move her to a regular room tomorrow. We'll keep the antibiotics and the heart medicine. We will also need to look at the cause of the heart problem. It could be a valve that needs help. We'll talk to a surgeon if we have to. But for now, we watch, we care, we wait. Patience is also medicine." While they waited, life tried to show up in small ways. Tara brought a sketch pad and pencils from the supply closet. "When I'm scared, I draw," she said. "Do you want to try?" Ellie drew the clinic. Then she drew a tall building with a sharp top. Then she drew a little person in front of a big desk. Then she drew a star in the corner of every page because she said pages get lonely without stars. "Stars are promises," she told Tara, not looking up from the pencil. Grant heard the words and turned a little so no one could see the way his eyes changed. At noon, a man in a gray suit and loud cologne came to the door with a clipboard. He had a badge that said City Health Compliance. He looked at the bed and then at Grant with too much boldness for someone who had not helped the day before. "We have to review the file," he said, "and check guardianship for the child. If the mother is incapacitated, we may need to place the minor in temporary care." Ellie's pencil stopped. Her hand froze in midair. Grant's gaze shifted to Ellie, to Nora, and back like a quiet storm moving across water. "No," Grant said, voice low. The man puffed up a little. "Sir, this is standard." "No," Grant repeated, not louder, just firmer. "She's not going anywhere. She is with us, with her mother, with my staff." The man tried to hold his ground. "Do you have legal guardianship?" he asked, almost smug. Tara stepped forward with a folder she had started building hours ago because she always lived one step ahead. "We have a temporary care affidavit signed by the mother this morning when she was stable," Tara said, taking out a paper with the morning's date and Nora's shaky but clear signature. "And we have the clinic's social worker's confirmation." Denise appeared behind the man like a shadow, reminding him of the rules he liked to bend. "That is correct," she said. "Everything is in order." The man read, sniffed like someone losing a small battle, and left. Ellie watched him go, then looked up at Grant. "Was he going to take me?" she whispered. Grant crouched eye level again. "Not while I'm here," he said. "Never while I'm here." That afternoon, Nora woke more and spoke more. She told Ellie a silly story about a spoon that got lost in a pot and had to learn to swim. Ellie laughed and the sound bounced off the walls in a way that made even the machines seem friendlier. Then Nora turned her face toward Grant. "Thank you," she said again. "I don't know how to pay you back." Grant shook his head. "You don't." Nora's eyes softened. "You look tired," she said. "Do you ever sleep?" He almost smiled. "Not much." She studied him the way mothers study people who are near their children. "You're not as cold as the news says," she said, and there was no tease in it, just a plain truth told like a gift. He looked down at his hands. "Maybe I forgot how to be warm," he said without meaning to say it out loud. Evening came again. The monitors kept time. Tara took Ellie back to the suite for a bath and fresh clothes. "I'll bring you back before bed," she promised. Ellie nodded, trusting the pattern now. While they were gone, Dr. Pierce returned with new numbers. "Even better," she said, smiling at Nora. "You're winning." Nora's lip trembled. "I'm trying," she whispered. After Dr. Pierce left, the room was quiet. Only Grant and Nora were there, and the soft beat that had become the heartbeat of everyone's day. Nora looked at Grant's face the way you look at someone when a question has been knocking for hours and you finally open the door. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, careful, not wanting to step on something delicate. Grant looked at the window and saw his reflection next to hers. "Because your daughter walked into my office without fear," he said. "Because a child asked me for work instead of pity. Because I have more than I need and she has less than she deserves." He paused. "And because," he stopped himself. The sentence in his chest was too big. He put a smaller one in its place. "Because it's right." Nora watched him a long second and then nodded like someone who knew large feelings when she heard them even if they were wearing small clothes. She shifted on the pillow and winced. He stood to help her sit up. "Don't," he said softly. "Rest." His hand brushed the blanket near her shoulder and for a flash of a second his fingers touched the edge of a small fabric shape tucked under the pillow, thin cotton, old stitching. He pulled it out without thinking. It was a baby hat, pale blue, worn smooth by years of touch. The world tilted. His throat forgot how to move air. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice a whisper that sounded like someone had turned off half of him. Nora's eyes widened. "It was a gift," she said slowly. From a man I once knew long ago." Grant stared at the hat. The tiny seam on the side was crooked in a way he knew like his own name. He had bought 2 hats that day. He had kept one. He had given the other to a nurse with shaking hands and not enough words. "What was his name?" Grant asked, the room suddenly too small. Nora opened her mouth then closed it, her eyes filled. "That doesn't matter," she said, and even as she said it, tears slipped down to her ears. He never came back. He didn't know." Her chin trembled. "Or maybe he knew and couldn't, I don't know." She shook her head. "It was a long time ago." The door opened quietly and Ellie walked in, hair damp, face clean, wearing a small yellow t-shirt that made her look like a little piece of sunlight someone had folded into clothes. "Hi, Mom," she said. She climbed into the chair and leaned on the bed rail. She saw the hat in Grant's hand and smiled. "I like that," she said. "It smells like soap and something old." She touched the hat and then touched the blue ribbon on the blanket. She made them cross like tiny paths. "Stars and mornings," she said, a child's poem that made perfect sense to her. Grant swallowed hard. He could feel something giant waking up in the quiet space behind his ribs, the place he had padded with steel and numbers and work for years. Later, when Ellie was asleep again in the suite, and Tara sat by the window watching the clinic lights blink like slow fireflies, Grant walked to the hospital chapel. He didn't do that often. The chapel was small and plain, with wooden seats and a light that felt like a warm hand on the back of your neck. He sat and stared at nothing until the nothing filled with a tiny pink hat and a baby's laugh and a star drawn in blue pen in the corner of a paper. He did not pray. He did not know how anymore. He just sat in a room where people brought their hardest feelings, and he let his own sit beside him like two strangers who didn't need to talk. Morning of the third day came with the softest beep yet and numbers that made Dr. Pierce smile before she entered the room. "We're moving you upstairs," she told Nora. "Regular room, same medicine, less machines." Nora's hand found Ellie's and squeezed. "We're moving up," she whispered. "See, you walked us in, now we walk out." Ellie grinned and nodded so hard her hair bounced. Tara texted, "Room assignment in 10, I'll bring Ellie's things." Denise sent a heart emoji that felt like a friend patting your shoulder. They transferred Nora to a room with a window that showed trees instead of equipment. The bed was still too narrow, the blanket still scratchy, but the air felt less scared. Ellie placed her drawing on the wall with a strip of tape: clinic, tall building, small person at big desk, stars everywhere. Nora smiled at it the way people smile at home even when they are somewhere else. Grant stood by the window and watched a nurse water a plant in the hallway, the simple act strangely powerful in a place that fought so hard against the dry parts of life. Just before lunch, a courier arrived and asked for Mr. Miller. He held a small envelope with a lab's logo and a plastic case inside that looked like it had carried something delicate and private. Tara took it, checked the name, and brought it into the room with careful steps. "This came from the lab you use," she said quietly to Grant, showing only the return address. "It's what you asked for yesterday." Ellie colored on the floor with her legs crossed, humming to herself. Nora watched Grant's face, already knowing that whatever was in the envelope would ask a big question and demand a bigger answer. Grant's fingers shook for the first time in a long time. He took the envelope and felt the weight of the paper like it was made of stone. He did not open it right away. He looked at Ellie first. She had picked up the blue ribbon and tied it around the baby hat like she was telling two small things they should hold each other. She looked up at him with eyes that were not exactly his and not exactly Nora's, but were exactly familiar in a way that made the room bend around him. He glanced at Nora. She nodded once, slow, like a person who knows the ocean is sometimes calm right before it roars. Grant slid his thumb under the flap and broke the seal. He pulled out the paper and read the first line. His eyes moved left to right the way they had read a million contracts, but this line did not feel like numbers and deals. It felt like a door that had been locked for years and now swung wide, letting bright, hard light in. His face changed, not big, not dramatic, just a quiet breaking that was more honest than any speech. He read the second line to be sure. Then the third, which did not need to be there because the first two had already said everything. He looked up. Ellie had stopped humming. Her pencil hovered above the page but did not touch it. Nora's hands were twisted in the blanket, white knuckle tight, the IV tape pulling a little. Grant held the paper like a person holds a picture of someone they thought they had lost forever but somehow found again in a drawer they had not opened since the old world ended. He opened his mouth to speak. And at that exact second, alarms on the hallway exploded, 2 rooms down, then 1 room over, then the hall lights flashing red, red, red. Nurses ran. Dr. Shaw's voice cut through the noise, calling a code in a different room. A crash cart banged against the door frame as it flew past. Someone shouted for blood. The building shook, or maybe it was just the hearts in it. Ellie jumped and grabbed Nora's hand. Grant stepped instinctively in front of his small family. The word came into his mind without permission, like a shield. The paper in his hand shook. He still had not said the words that would change everything. "Mr. Miller," Tara whispered, eyes on the page, voice trembling. "What does it?" Monitor screamed with a shrill, unbroken tone as Nora's body jerked on the bed, her hands clenching the blanket. "She's crashing again," Dr. Pierce shouted, snapping her gloves on. Nurses rushed in from both sides, the door banging open. Ellie froze, her drawing falling from her lap as color drained from her face. "Mommy," she cried, trying to climb up the bed rail, but Tara caught her, pulling her gently into her arms. "It's okay, sweetheart, they're helping her," Tara whispered, her own voice shaking. Grant stepped back, gripping the paper in his hand so tightly it wrinkled. His mind raced, not as a billionaire calculating losses or deals, but as a man watching the only 2 people who had cracked his armor fight for breath. The alarms blared louder. Dr. Pierce pressed her stethoscope against Nora's chest, barking orders, epinephrine now, increase O2 to 95%. The room became a storm of movement. Wires, syringes, flashing screens, everything urgent. Grant's pulse thudded in his throat. He wanted to help but didn't know how. "Please," he muttered under his breath, voice breaking. "Please, not again." Tara tightened her hold on Ellie. The little girl was sobbing into her chest, her small hands clawing to reach her mother. "She'll wake up, right? She'll wake up," she cried. Tara couldn't answer. Her throat was locked. Dr. Pierce gave the signal clear, and the defibrillator pads pressed against Nora's chest. A jolt, her body arched. The monitor line jumped, then flattened again. Ellie screamed. "Charge again," Dr. Pierce ordered. Another jolt. The air smelled of metal and ozone. A beep, faint but there. A shaky rhythm stumbled onto the screen, weak but alive. The nurse exhaled in relief. Dr. Pierce's voice softened. "We've got her. Come on, Nora, stay with us." Grant pressed his palm to his forehead. The paper with the DNA results slipped from his grip and floated to the floor. Tara saw it land near her foot. She glanced down and her eyes widened. There in clean black print were the words. Paternity result, probability of paternity, 99.97%. Conclusion, Mr. Grant Miller is the biological father of minor Ellie Brooks. Tara's eyes darted from the paper to Grant, then to Ellie, still sobbing in her arms. The world spun. "Oh my God," she whispered. Grant lifted his head. His eyes found hers, and in that silent second, everything shifted. He stepped forward, voice breaking. "Ellie," he said, and the way he said it made Tara's breath hitch. It wasn't just a name, it was a memory waking up, a connection found, a missing heartbeat returning. Ellie turned, tears streaking her cheeks. "What?" she hiccuped. He crouched down, his face inches from hers, voice trembling. "You're my daughter." The room froze around that sentence. Even the machines seemed to slow, the beeping softer, steadier, as if the world paused to listen. Ellie blinked, confusion clouding her eyes. "You're what?" Grant swallowed hard, his hands shaking as he reached into his pocket for the paper. "This test, it says I'm your father. I didn't know, Ellie, I swear I didn't know." Tara's eyes filled. Dr. Pierce, who had just finished stabilizing Nora, looked up at them, her face a mix of exhaustion and wonder. Nora, still pale, stirred weakly, her lips parted. "Grant," she whispered, barely a sound. He turned instantly, kneeling beside the bed. "Nora, I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, glassy and tired, but full of meaning. "You know now." He nodded, tears finally falling. "Yes, I know." A weak smile touched her lips. "I wanted to tell you, but life," her words broke off as she coughed. "I didn't want her to hate you for not being there." Grant took her hand, pressing it to his forehead. "Don't talk, save your strength. I'm here now. I'm not leaving either of you again." Ellie stood between Tara's knees, silent, eyes wide and wet. "You mean he's my dad, my real dad?" Nora turned to her, tears sliding down her temple. "Yes, baby, he's your daddy." Ellie's lower lip trembled. She stepped closer to Grant, her small fingers touching his sleeve like she was testing if he was real. "Why didn't you come before?" she whispered. Grant's chest cracked open. "Because I didn't know you existed," he said, voice hoarse. "But if I had known, I would have found you, I promise you that." Ellie's tears started again, but this time softer, lighter. She leaned into him and he wrapped his arms around her, holding her as if trying to make up for every year he'd missed. "I found you," she said against his chest. "I came to find work and I found my daddy." Dr. Pierce blinked fast, pretending to check the IV line to hide her emotion. Tara turned away, wiping her face. Even Cole, standing guard by the door, cleared his throat loudly like a man refusing to cry. Nora smiled weakly. "I told you, Ellie, the light always finds its way home." Grant kissed her hand gently. "And this time," he said quietly, "it's never leaving again." But then Nora's body shuddered, the monitor beeped erratically, Dr. Pierce's head snapped up. "She's unstable again." Grant stood, heart hammering. No, please, not now." The team rushed back in. Ellie screamed, reaching for her mother, but Tara caught her again. The air filled with orders, BP dropping. "Push another round. We're losing her." Grant's world spun, and then, for one horrifying second, the monitor went flat. He took a step forward, eyes wide as the defibrillator paddles were lifted again. "No," he roared, "you can't take her." Ellie sobbed into Tara's arms. "Please, Mommy, don't go, please." A shock, a pause, a flicker. Then a beep, then another, then a rhythm. The team exhaled. Dr. Pierce's voice came shaky. "She's back, weak but stable." Grant dropped to his knees, his breath breaking. "Thank you," he whispered to the ceiling, to fate, to anyone listening. "Thank you." He turned, pulled Ellie into his arms again, and held her close as she trembled. "You're safe," he whispered into her hair. "We're safe, she's safe." Nora opened her eyes faintly, a ghost of a smile on her lips. "I told you," she whispered, "you don't need to beg for a job, my brave girl, you just needed to find your father." Grant squeezed her hand, and she did. Tara smiled through her tears, and she changed his life doing it. The room filled with quiet, broken breaths and relief, the kind that tastes like hope after a storm. Ellie leaned into Grant's chest. "So now what?" He looked down at her, tears drying on his cheeks, voice gentle but sure. "Now, sweetheart, we start over, all of us." He glanced at Nora, her heartbeat steady but fragile on the screen, and for the first time in years he smiled, real and full, like a sunrise breaking through glass towers. But outside the window, dark clouds gathered again. The storm wasn't over. Because what none of them knew yet was that someone from Grant's past, someone who had buried the truth years ago, had just found out he was back in Nora Brooks' life. And that person was not going to let this new family stay whole for long.